The city is bustling with traffic. Singing and dancing are peaceful, and the undercurrent is turbulent. Somewhere in the prosperous commercial district of Dongshui City, there is a commercial building called Milong. The ground floor is a densely populated ordinary shop, and on the 12th floor, there is a company called Tianxing Club. Wen Renzheng, who is just 20 years old this year, has been in this club for 3 years when others are still in college, and has an excellent position and enviable income. This morning, in the underground parking lot of the commercial building, in a blue and black car. "Brother Li, it's still the same, pick me up from get off work at 2 p.m. Wen Renzheng said to the driver in the front row, and took a look at his appearance today through the rear-view mirror. It's still the same as in the past, with flourishing beauty, bright eyebrows, perfect facial features. In any drama and film and television drama, it is a standard non-dragon template. It is absolutely impossible to hang up in 3 episodes or hang up in 3 episodes, also sorry for the cost. This is enough. Okay, Mr. Wenren." In the driver's seat, a middle-aged man with a stern face responded, then got out of the car and bowed to open the rear door for him. Wen Renzheng got out of the car immediately, then glanced at the driver who had served him for 3 years, his eyes lit up slightly, and a string of messages flashed. Li Xuanjiu. Mystery, 0/1. Well, everything is normal. After getting out of the car, he turned a few steps and walked slowly up the stairs leading to the 12th floor. If you don't have to, don't take the elevator. It was nearly 9 o'clock, and occasionally some staff members appeared in the stairwell and passed him by. Most of them came and went in a hurry, and there was a trace of exhaustion and sleepiness in their eyebrows. Only he climbed the stairs slowly and calmly. "Mr. Wenren is early." Suddenly, a crisp female voice came from behind him. Wen Renzheng turned his head to look, and saw that it was a young girl with a face value of about 7 points or more, with a melon face, straight facial features, short black hair, eyebrows, and bangs, full of energy, he was about the height of his shoulders, more than 1.6 m. He blinked, and a string of messages flashed in his eyes again. Zhao Han. Mystery, 9/9. Mysterious composition, unknown. His expression didn't change, he just nodded slightly and said, "It's Zhao Han, early." After greeting, the two climbed the stairs side by side. When Renzheng didn't speak again, the atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. After waiting for a while, Zhao Han seemed to muster up some courage and took the initiative to ask, "Does Manager Wenren usually come to the company at this time?" "Yet." Wen Renzheng nodded again. Zhao Han was a little embarrassed, and then added, "I heard that there have been a lot of cases in the West District in the past month, and the motives for committing the crimes are impulse, killing people out of anger." "Oh, did you kill someone out of anger?" Wen Renzheng slowed down. Yet, Zhao Han heard this and found that the other party seemed to be interested, so he said enthusiastically, "In one case, the husband killed his wife in anger because his wife was gambling, one was a quarrel on the bus, stabbing with a knife. There are so many, there have been more than 20 incidents in the West District this month, but most of them have not been announced." "More than 20? This is a bit frequent." Wen Renzheng frowned slightly. Zhao Han nodded again and again, with visible worry on his face, "That is to say, our city, the law and order is still good, although the population is large, it is a first-tier city, but the total number of ordinary murders in a year is only 40 or 50. Now there are more than 20 outbreaks in a month, and there must be mysterious factors involved, which is really worrying. I don't know if the murderer is hiding by our side." Wen Renzheng didn't respond anymore, he seemed to be thinking. "That's right, the work of the two is in the mysterious realm, the grey area in this world that ordinary people absolutely cannot confront, but absolutely unavoidable, is also an industry that stands at the top of the pyramid in this world." The two climbed the stairs as they talked, and soon reached the club on the 12th floor. At the entrance of the stairwell, there was a blue sign with Skywalk Club, which looked unremarkable. The two were at the entrance of the stairs. They checked their fingerprints and pupils, opened the door, and walked inside. After entering, there is a long corridor, marble floor tiles, and white walls, all of which make people feel that this is an unusual company. Taking the stair entrance as the dividing point, there are separate rooms on the left, and a hall surrounded by glass walls on the right, with desks placed in it. At the end of the corridor is the corner. This is a circular corridor with elevator shafts and other public facilities in the middle, and office rooms on all sides. After the two entered the corridor, Wen Renzheng nodded to Zhao Han and walked to the left, while the other party stood still and watched him leave before heading towards the hall on the right. Wen Renzheng came to the third room from the left. There was a sign on the door, Project Center Manager's Room, and a vast starry sky poster was pasted on the door, which seemed to indicate that the owner of the room had the spirit of the universe. He pressed the fingerprint lock and opened the door. Inside was a large desk, a sofa, and a coffee table. There was also a separate compartment, which was a separate bathroom, which was perfectly furnished. The windows are bright and clean, the air is fresh, and a pot of chlorophytum is placed on the desk, exuding a green atmosphere. In the corner of the desk, there was a steaming paper basket, which contained a bowl of golden millet porridge, a stack of refined pickles, and a basket of delicate steamed buns, which looked mouth-watering. After Wen Renzheng sat down at the desk, he opened his laptop, tuned to a new anime he was chasing, then picked up the steamed buns in the paper basket and started watching while eating. Well, not bad. The breakfast that Xiaoqing made was so unpalatable. The rice porridge was mushy, the pickles were hard to eat, and the stuffing in the steamed buns was really bitter and astringent. I really don't know if she tried it herself after making it. Pass. His face remained the same, secretly savoring. From an outsider's point of view, he is now a middle-level company in troubled waters. However, no one knew that although his eyes fell on that lively and funny anime, his pupils had lost focus slightly, and some strange and messy information was flashing in his mind quickly. You ate a mysterious dark dish as if nothing had happened. The current mystery level has recovered by 1 point, and your mystery resistance has been slightly improved. Mysterious seed. Location, with you. Mystery, 95, current value, /100, upper value, dot. Mysterious composition, 1. Memory of otherworldly people, upper limit plus 50, 2. Transcendent power, upper limit plus 30, 3. Mystical cognition, upper limit plus 20. Function, 1. The effect of all mysterious fields is passively increased by 100%, 2. Consumption of mystery can additionally increase the effect of mysterious skills, and each point increases by 1%. That's right, Wen Renzheng is not from this world. It has been 3 years since he came to this world, and this world is very similar to his previous life, whether it is economic, technological, or military. The only difference is that there is a mix of mysterious fields here. In his previous life, he was just an ordinary person, with an ordinary life, an ordinary ending, an ordinary life, some regrets, but no tragedy. In this life, he found that he could live a more wonderful life and hope for more possibilities in life, and what he has to do is to make himself more and more mysterious, and the more mysterious he is, the stronger he will be. Doing all kinds of mysterious behaviors that others can't figure out, can restore his current mystery, while the development and deepening of the mysterious field can increase the upper limit of mystery. This is the basic usage that he has dug up for the mysterious seed of the golden finger he owns within 3 years. The plot on the computer continued to play, and in his mind, he reviewed some of the mysterious knowledge he had written down last night when he stayed up late, and sorted out the information. Among his extraordinary powers, there are skills in 3 mysterious domains: extraordinary physique, medium, mysterious resistance, medium, and extraordinary memory, beginning. Among them, extraordinary memory, although it is only elementary, but after the effect is increased by 100%, it can allow him to achieve the advanced effect in advance, quickly browse a large amount of knowledge, and be able to remember it. This skill has many benefits. It can save eyesight, and can achieve fast memory. But for others, the primary effect of this skill is that memory can only be improved from a scumbag to a scholar, and it is still within the understanding of ordinary people. It usually takes 3 to 5 years to achieve the level of advanced level, which is unbelievable to ordinary people, and can only be achieved through dedicated research and hard training. When he had just finished watching the 24-minute episode of a short video, someone suddenly pushed in the door. This is a girl, about 20 years old, with 2 slender braids hanging in front of her flat chest, wearing a pair of large black-rimmed glasses, wearing clothes that are very inappropriate for the current fashion, a blue and white striped top. The dark black trousers declared one word to others from the inside to the outside earth. Most of the girl's face was covered by black-rimmed glasses and braided braids. The only bright spot of Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com was that her skin was very pale, as if she hadn't seen the sun for a long time. After the girl came in, she didn't say a word, she just cleaned up Wen Rensheng's breakfast, put it in a paper basket, poured him a glass of water, then turned around and left. Wen Rensheng didn't get up, just smiled. "Thank you Xiaoqing, the breakfast is still as good as before." The girl's shoulders moved slightly, but she didn't turn her head, but finally said, "Hypocritical. No, I'm telling the truth, I've always been an honest person." Wen Rensheng replied seriously. The girl wanted to say something else, but she heard a bang from behind, which seemed to be the sound of the water glass that had just been poured over suddenly. "It's good, the laptop is broken, and I can add some GDP to the city." Wen Rensheng put away the laptop with the black screen, and said without any frustration. The corners of the girl's mouth were slightly raised, and she said with a hum, "Let's watch less dramas." Others use the time you spend watching novels, videos, and even sleeping for cultivation and study. Teacher AI said that success is 99% perspiration plus 1% inspiration, but 1% inspiration is the most important. In your eyes, I am wasting time, but in fact I am capturing inspiration. Wen Rensheng said seriously. "Boring." The girl ignored him and went out directly. Wen Rensheng looked at the empty office, shook his head and said, "Actually, what I said is true." At this time, new information flows continued to appear in his mind. Your behavior makes the same level superhumans feel incomprehensible, and the current mystery is +1. Wei Yuking. Mystery, / Mysterious composition, seeds of bad luck. Wen Rensheng pushed the broken notebook aside, preparing to send someone to repair it later, and then he leaned back on the boss's chair. On the surface, he closed his eyes and rested, lazy to fish, but in fact his thoughts were floating and thinking about things. The seed of mystery, the seed of bad luck. I didn't expect that he had been in friendship with Wei Yuking for more than 2 years. Except for the other party's alien species, he still couldn't know more about the other party. He thought so, and began to recall something. In today's world, if ordinary people want to step into the mysterious world, they must activate a mysterious existence called xenogenic, so that they can walk out of the solid and constant physical world and step into the door of the mysterious world. The specific source of the xenogenic is not known, it can only be determined, and a very small number of randomly generated in some places every year. Every alien species must be activated and received by a master who meets certain conditions. Harvesting xenogenic species, selecting the most suitable owner for it in time, and maintaining the spare tire list, is the highest level strategic project of each country every year, and there is no one. Without enough alien hosts, it is impossible to fight against the endless variety of mysterious events. No matter how powerful a country is, it will collapse in just a few decades, and no matter how developed modern weapons are, human beings themselves are still fragile. It was 3 years ago, when he was a 17-year-old high school student, that he stood out in the activity of selecting the master of different races in Dongshui City, and activated this mysterious seed that no one had ever activated before. After activating it, he understood the other party's main selection conditions. It was actually very simple. There was no other coquettish alien species. The basic mystery was 50 points and above, and I could not have any other alien aura. In fact, it can be summed up as one condition: an ordinary person with 50 points of basic mystery. As for the other activated alien species, as far as he knows, there are as few as a dozen, as many as 50 or 60, so that every qualified spare tire must be specially trained. However, with this one condition alone, all ordinary people in this world can be shut out. People who can have 50 points of mystery cannot be ordinary people, and ordinary people must not have 50 points of mystery. In fact, this alien species has been harvested many years ago. It has experienced too many master selection activities, and no one has been successfully activated, let alone like other seeds. Not only can there be the most suitable master, but also can cultivate many targeted a spare tire. So when other alien species harvested in the same period have followed the hosts to shine and show off their power, it is still a quiet salted fish. For the host selection event in batches 3 years ago, it was still a routine thing for the host. This made everyone have to sigh. Even if it is a seed of salted fish, one must have a dream, isn't it a reality? As for Wen Renzheng, who activated this mysterious seed, of course he wouldn't tell its true activation conditions, because it was self-destruction. He just customized a few conditions that other ordinary people would definitely not be able to achieve based on his own factors. Just as Wen Renzheng was recalling the past, summarizing the present, and looking forward to the future, the office phone suddenly rang. He opened his eyes, looked up. It was already 11 o'clock in the morning. He reached out and picked up the office phone, and Wei Yuking's voice came from inside. "Well, I'll go right now. Don't worry, I won't delay the class. Old Wu will definitely delay the class again." He hung up the phone, tidied up his instruments, and then walked out of the office to the door of the hall on the east side of the corridor. From the outside, the hall surrounded by glass walls has an unobstructed view of the interior, just like a high school classroom. The podium, the blackboard. The difference is the desk, not the student desk, but a large and comfortable desk. At this time, there were more than 20 people sitting neatly in the hall. There were men and women, but most of them were women, accounting for more than 70%, and all of them were quite good-looking. At this time, a middle-aged man with a plain appearance was standing on the podium. He was dark-skinned and very strong. At first glance, he often played outdoor sports. He had a pair of long and narrow eyes, but he was very energetic. "I would like to say 2 last words. All students must stick to their nature in the cultivation of aliens, and do not violate the conditions of the selection of masters of aliens at that time. Don't forget the original intention, so as to be consistent. In addition, I would like to remind everyone that the 3-yearly Xenogenic Host Qualification Assessment will begin in half a month. Please prepare in advance. Of course, if a certain lady or gentleman has received an expert-level evaluation, you can ignore the contempt. Reminder: as a heterogeneous host, we have a very high social status and excellent basic treatment. We are the most desired talents by any country in the world, and we are also facing the most fierce competition. If you go against the current, if you don't advance, you will retreat. If you are lazy, you will naturally have a lot of spare tires waiting for you. Even if you don't have it today, you will have it tomorrow. The world will turn around without anyone." Wen Renzheng was listening outside the door, very speechless. This old Wu was taking the opportunity to ridicule him again, but it was all kind of good intentions. He coughed to show his existence. The middle-aged man turned his head and squinted at him, and finally stopped talking. "Oh, okay, classmates, the following is the class time of Manager Wen Ren, and he will continue to teach you the mysterious skill of transcendent memory. I hope someone master it sooner. Goodbye, classmates. Goodbye, teacher." Behind the desk, rows of students stood up neatly. The middle-aged man nodded, walked off the podium, came to the door, and whispered to Wen Renzheng, "Take me seriously, teach twice a week for more than 4 months, and no one has learned it yet. Be careful that your teaching allowance is cancelled by Mr. Zhao." Wen Renzheng was indifferent and did not give any explanation. He just brushed past each other, walked to the podium, and sat on the chair behind. Then he glanced at everyone, and said, "Okay, haste is not enough. Everyone has a Tuhur class. Let's take a 10-minute break between classes and relax your mind." Before he finished speaking, a student in the back row suddenly raised his hand. Wen Renzheng looked over and saw that this was a thin young man with decent facial features. He nodded and stretched out his hand to signal the other person to stand up. "Teacher Wenren, you are wrong. Our time is very tight. After everyone activates the alien species, they have a basic extraordinary physique, and they are no longer those weak garbage mortals. Said, you let us rest for 10 minutes, there are 25 people here, that is 250 minutes, you are equivalent to murdering our lives for 250 minutes. Oh, you mean, you don't need to rest." Wen Renzheng looked at the other party so excited, but said indifferently, "That's right. We are going to have a qualification assessment soon. Every minute is precious to us. I believe that every classmate here will never be happy to become immortal like a pig and a sheep. Stupid death." The male student shouted with anger on his face, as if Wen Renzheng let them rest for 10 minutes, it would cause him to fail the next exam. The students turned their heads to look at him. Some were very surprised, while others were thoughtful. For a while, many people began to talk in a low voice. "He's too bold, how dare he openly contradict the teacher like this? Emotional intelligence is a negative number, doesn't he know that teacher Wenren is likely to be the judge of the next qualification assessment? But what he said is reasonable. Every minute of class time is precious. I hired a private teacher, and it cost me 30,000 an hour. That person's level is worse than that of teacher Wenren. It's a bit far." Wen Renzheng didn't get angry, he just glanced at the other party's face quickly corresponded with the student's file, and a new stream of information appeared in his eyes at the same time. Lu Jian. Mystery, 15/40. Mysterious composition, seed of wrath, supernatural power, mysterious cognition, ... In Wen Renzhen's own mysterious composition, there is no mysterious seed itself, because it excludes itself when calculating. As for Lu Jian's mystery, 15 represents how much mystery is left unresolved, and 40 is the same as Wen Renzhen's, the upper limit of mystery. This value will also increase as the opponent's strength increases. Seeing this, he asked with a serious face, "This new student, what's your name?" When Lu Jian heard the words, he answered righteously, "My name is Wang Jun." A few classmates nearby were stunned when they heard the words, and their eyes widened immediately. Could this one be an idiot? Did he think that if he gave a false name, the teacher would even forget his face and voice? Don't forget what the other person is teaching now. Hearing the words, Wen Renzheng looked relieved, and nodded again and again. Although I want to severely criticize your unfair view of ordinary people, it is very good that you dare to ignore authority and have the courage to express your own opinions. Yes. Courage is the cornerstone to ensure that we continue to advance in the mysterious field. If I am the judge of the next qualification assessment, I will definitely give you extra points. Lu Jian continued, "Since this is the case, then teacher, my name is Lu Jian." Everyone was stunned. "Go out. For the next 2 classes, stand outside and listen." Wen Renzheng waved his hand expressionlessly. When Lu Jian heard this, he was overjoyed, but then a trace of doubt flashed on his face, then he bowed his head and walked out of the classroom and stood outside the door. Wen Renzheng was too lazy to pay attention to this treasure, but he did not continue to let everyone rest. He directly picked up the chalk and quickly wrote and drew on the blackboard. A lecture content with illustrations quickly took shape. Before the official lecture, I still routinely ask if anyone has mastered this skill. He glanced at it, but no one raised a hand. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. Isn't there anyone yet? He shook his head, seeming a little frustrated. It seems that I am still too young to teach and educate people. Well, after this class, I will take the initiative to abdicate and let Mr. Zhao go again. Invite a talented person to come and teach everyone. When everyone heard this, most of them showed a trace of reluctance on their faces. A female student couldn't help but said, "Mr. Wenren, we are not qualified enough to learn. Your teaching has made us improve a lot in many aspects of the mysterious field. Yet, this ability is inherently difficult. Out of 100 alien activators, only one can learn it. This can't be blamed on the teacher." Another boy insisted. "Yes, extraordinary memory sounds ordinary, but it is the cornerstone of the branch of intelligence in the mysterious field. The actual value is very huge. Whether it is a personal reason or not has nothing to do with the teacher. Thank you for your persuasion, but now it's a society where the outcome decides everything, and I can't help it." Wen Renzheng shook his head. At this moment, by the left window, a girl hesitated for a while, and finally raised her hand. Everyone quickly discovered this. They turned their heads to look one by one, and were secretly surprised that anyone could actually learn it. Wen Renzheng also looked up and saw that the person raising his hand was a woman with long silver hair, with a smooth face, delicate facial features, a dignified appearance, a straight back, and pure eyes, showing a unique brilliance of rationality. Activating xenogenic species can change the physique, and the hair color may naturally change accordingly. That's right, Su Yun's Huang, come to the podium and share your experience with everyone. Wen Renzheng didn't seem surprised, he reached out and asked. Yes, teacher. Su Yun's Huang heard the words and stood up and walked slowly towards the podium. Looking at the other parties back on the podium, some students secretly envied him. This is a talented student. No wonder the teacher can remember her name. The eldest lady of the Five Colors group. We civilians as temporary hosts of alien species are incomparable. Only by becoming an expert in a branch field like Teacher Wenren can we truly change our class. Hey, work hard, try to master the 5 mystery skills as soon as possible, to form a unique system, and perhaps pass the expert level qualification review. In the midst of everyone's discussion, Su Yun's Huang walked to the podium with her shoulders straight, giving people an inexplicable confidence and calmness. Extraordinary memory, a basic skill of intelligence in the mysterious field, is indeed very difficult to master. We need to deeply understand the physiological mechanism of the human brain, so that we can accurately mobilize the power of alien species in the body and strengthen the corresponding areas. Through a lot of repeated practice, the alien species can form a skill memory. If the alien species you have is not the first-generation species, but the second-generation or multi-generation species that already have this skill, then it will be much easier to master, and of course there will be some hidden dangers. I can do it now. After reading 200 or 300 word essays or 30 unrelated numbers, I can perform mechanical memory. She spoke carefully, very patiently. Then, classmate Su, please give us a demonstration. Someone couldn't help but ask. Okay, please feel free to find an article, or make up some random numbers. Su Yun's Huang did not refuse. Someone immediately said, let's do this. 5 minutes ago, on the Xenogenic Forum, a Big V just published a high-authority post. The person who spoke was a very beautiful girl, 1 point better than Su Yun's Huang, with short black hair, fair skin, long narrow and smart eyes, and an excellent figure. After she finished speaking, without waiting for others to speak, she took out her mobile phone, walked up to the podium, and handed it over with a hint of slyness in her eyes. Su Yun's Huang nodded, swiped the screen, and in less than a minute, she handed the phone back, Thank you, classmate Wu Shanshan, I've finished reading it. Wu Shanshan took over the phone, looked down at the article and prepared to verify, and said, then start memorizing it. Why do most alien species choose us women as their hosts? According to scientific statistics, gentle, kind and good-looking human beings are often easily selected by alien species. This tells us that not only the ordinary world is to see faces, but even the mysterious world is like this. Su Yunshuang's voice was a little cold, and he repeated it word by word. After a few minutes, Wu Shanshan can only nod and say, okay, you've recited exactly every word. Then she looked at Wen Renzheng, who was standing beside him, and gave her a meaningful look. Wen Renzheng was indifferent to this, but just clapped his hands and praised, yes, it seems that Su has put in a lot of effort and has the qualifications in this area, as expected of a top student who can be admitted to Aomori University. 2 students, please come back now. Come to your seat, I will give you a lecture and answer your doubts. The 2 girls walked back to their seats one after another. At this time, students began to raise their hands one after another to ask various questions that they usually encounter, some of which are not limited to the scope of this skill. Wen Renzheng did not identify them, but answered them one by one. Every questioner could basically come to a realization. The fact that he was able to do this was naturally related to the passive effect of mysterious seed. Passive increase of 100% in the effect of all mysterious fields does not only refer to all of his 3 extraordinary skills, but also his teaching ability in the mysterious field. It's just that this teaching ability has not been refined into a unique mystery skill. If it is refined, it can be actively strengthened, and it can be further increased. This is one of the reasons why the students did not want him to leave. Halfway through the class, the voice of 2 people talking came from outside the door. Why are you standing outside? I just lied to the teacher, so I was fine to stand. Nonsense, how old are you, let's go in. Wen Renzheng turned his head to look, only to see that it was old Wu who had left the class last class, and he came back at this time, obviously something happened. Lu Jianzhang looked at him and seemed to be asking if he could go in. Wen Renzheng nodded, stretched out his hand to let the other party in, and the other party bowed his head and went back to his desk. Teacher Wu walked in and said to everyone, I'm sorry, students, an emergency has just happened, and I need to borrow you, Teacher Wenren. As for the missed class. Wait a minute, old Wu, what difficulty do you estimate the incident is now? Wen Renzheng interrupted the other party's words. It should be above the proficient level, but less than the expert level. Teacher Wu thought for a while and affirmed. In this case, in view of the excellent performance of some students, I will continue to select a few people to follow me for an internship. Wen Renzheng smiled and turned to the crowd. You're here again. Teacher Wu was a little dissatisfied, but when he turned around, he saw more than 20 students who were eager to try. Everyone has learned it all the way, and many of them are even in high school and university. They come to Tianxing Club to take classes, which belongs to the nature of professional cram schools. It's just that ordinary people are learning piano, music, art, foreign languages, and they are studying the mysterious field. Compared with the former, the cost performance is much higher, and of course the price is also much higher. They naturally understand the difference between mechanical learning and practice. Many students can make rapid progress through hard work in the usual exams, but after entering the society, they often fall into confusion in an environment of uncertainty and cannot find rapid progress. Methods. Among the teachers who teach in the Skywalking Club, only Wen Renzheng is the only one who is willing to provide them with additional internship opportunities. The students all understand that this is because other teachers do not want to take responsibility. And this was the second reason why they didn't want Wen Renzheng to leave. After Mr. Wu glanced at the expected crowd, he didn't say anything to stop him. He just reminded in a low voice, internship is an intern, so you must pay attention to safety. If something goes wrong, Mr. Zhao is not as easy to talk as usual. Wen Renzheng nodded, stretched out his hand to everyone and said, Su Yun's Huang, Zhao Han, and. At this moment, Wu Shanshan, who took the mobile phone to test Su Yun's Huang, raised her head and blinked at him. Okay, Wu Shanshan, the three of you prepare a little and go to practice with me. The students were envious for a while. Although they didn't find any male students, they were not dissatisfied at all, because everyone would have a similar opportunity. It's just that some people have more opportunities, while others have less. Newcomers who come to the club to take classes will definitely have a guaranteed internship opportunity in Wen Renzhen's class. That's how Zhao Han was selected. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. And Su Yun's Huang performed outstandingly today. The only surprise is probably Wu Shanshan, and it's her turn again, but who makes the most beautiful in the class? Wen Renzheng swept over everyone's expressions, and felt a little pleasure in his heart. In his previous life, he lived to be in his 30s. In the end, he died suddenly because of excessive overtime work. As an ordinary person, he ended his ordinary life. When he rarely chooses others, most of them are chosen by others. In this life, he will soon have the power to choose others often. The three girls whose names he named all had a slight excitement on their faces, and then quickly packed up, and it was done in less than a minute. The speed of putting on makeup and going out is simply a world away. Teacher Wu swept over the three, and finally paused on Wu Shanshan's body, frowned, and glared at Wen Renzheng. Wen Renzheng suddenly felt a gloomy word flashed in his ear, "Boy, I take you as a brother, don't let me be your father." Wen Renzheng was speechless for a while, so he could only ignore it and waved goodbye to all the students. "Goodbye, classmates, the rest of the class will be made up next time." "Goodbye, teacher." The students stood up one after another. The group of 5 quickly walked out of the big office first, and there was a low voice of discussion behind them. "I'm still very brave. Every time I go out, I dare to take our students for an internship. Isn't that Lu Jian stupid?" This time it was possible to flip his brand, but he insisted on making such a boring joke to Lao Wen. The result is good, they are all new students, Zhao Han has gone, and his strength is obvious. He didn't make it to a higher level. I don't know if he is stupid or not, I only know that he is unlikely to have the seed of a fool. Be quiet, it's a big taboo to speculate on other people's alien species. After leaving the hall, Mr. Wu walked with the 4 of them towards the west side of the circular corridor, went straight, past the corner, and then came to the other side. There are 4 large offices neatly arranged on this side, with tall signs hanging at the door in turn. At first glance, Project Center, R&D Center, Financial Center, and Outreach Center, if outsiders see it, they will only think that this is a software company, not a club working in a mysterious field. Like the teaching hall just now, these large offices are separated by semi-transparent glass walls. Looking up, the space is very large. There are not many staff in each large office area. One can accommodate 40 or 50 people. In the large office where people work, there are only 7 or 8 people scattered. Mr. Wu led people directly to the project center, pushed open the glass door, and walked in first. Zhao Han looked at this place curiously. This should be Lao Wen's site, but according to my uncle, Lao Wu is more authoritative here, only with 7 or 8 guns, so he has great authority. How many people can he show? In this regard, it really can't compare with those ordinary industry companies. There are hundreds of thousands of people there, and everyone must be careful to serve the boss. The ranks are strict, and having a 996 must be regarded as a blessing from a previous life. It's not enough here. The relevant abilities in the mysterious field can be interviewed and hired with a proficiency evaluation. The basic monthly salary starts at 30,000 yuan. There are also various commission allowances, hidden benefits, and all income is tax-free. Such a good treatment, put it outside if you can rob your head, I heard that some people dare to get off work at 2 o'clock. Manager Wenren, Deputy Manager Wu, you are here, I'll tell you about the specific situation of this emergency. A capable woman in her mid-30s, wearing a professional dress, with light makeup and a 6-point beauty, holding a pocket laptop, he came over. Okay, team leader Hu, talk to me over there. Teacher Wu nodded, then walked to a small office separated by a separate glass wall. Several people walked in one after another, and the guests and the host sat down. Team leader Hu put the laptop on a desk, and a video was displayed on the screen. A beautiful female reporter said indignantly in front of the camera, the current commotion in the Tianqiao Stadium has just subsided. In the 5:3 football game just now, the referee issued a total of 5 yellow cards. 2 red cards, 3 penalty kicks. What's incredible is that every time his penalty has not been verified by live VR, the 2 red cards are all given to the losing team, and the 3 penalty kicks are all for the win side team. At the same time, bursts of angry roars came from the stadium. Black! 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 Where did the whistle go? I was eaten by the referee. Team leader Hu paused the video and said, after an emergency inspection by the on-site personnel, this referee has a residual mysterious aura, which seems to explain why he dared to do this. When Wen Renzheng heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched, thinking to himself, even without the intervention of the mysterious power, they would have dared to do this in my previous life. These daring dare to treat our Shenzhou as a place where there is no way, Mr. Wu said to Wen Renzheng with a livid face while watching the live broadcast, don't talk about secretly doing things, you still dare to do it in public now. The wind and the rain just don't know how to live or die. If that's the case, they're really crazy. Wen Renzheng frowned. What Lao Wu said is right, Shenzhou has a strong heritage, and most of the mysterious events are confined to a small area and will not be exposed to the public vision of ordinary people. Today, this kind of thing is actually very rare. Well, according to the analysis of our team members, the truth of the stadium commotion is more likely to be a disaster. Team leader Hu immediately offered his own advice, that Mr. Referee is likely to be related to the recent series of murders in the West District. The case is related, and it is only his professional characteristics that led to the current big scene. As she spoke, she called up a table that listed some recent cases, just like what Wen Renzheng heard from Zhao Han when he went to work. Husbands and wives killed each other in more than half of the cases. There are related motivation analysis, the pressure of life and comparison, and various irresponsible remarks on the internet. Secondly, there are some conflicts between strangers, most of which are seemingly accidental conflicts, detonating anger, and the motivation analysis is related to the fast pace of life and excessive work pressure. At this time, the 3 students who followed the internship, Zhao Han, Su Yun's Huang, and Wu Shanshan, all took out a notebook and quickly recorded everything they heard and saw with their pens. This is an extremely valuable experience for them, and they can use it directly after they officially enter the industry. Mensen and mensen with work experience are 2 completely different concepts. Team leader Hu continued, the referee's name is He San Ke, who has been controlled on the spot. According to his on-site confession, he just had a big argument with his wife Lu Fangfang because of the issue of buying a house. I settled down, but I couldn't get the full payment for the house. I could only pay 25% of the down payment, and the rest had to take out a loan, and the loan would significantly reduce the quality of life of my wife. Therefore, Lu Fangfang was often ridiculed by Lu Fangfang for not being able to say anything, and being too timid. There will be no future in life, so in a fit of rage, he accepted black gold in the last game. Zhao Han suddenly interjected. Team leader Hu raised his head and glanced at the young girl, feeling an inexplicable boredom in his heart. He was about to sneer, but saw that the 2 managers and deputy managers didn't say a word. It's not like that, but his wife is crazy about an idol, who happens to be a diehard supporter of the losing team, and gave up a performance on purpose, just cheering on the spot. She just continued indifferently. Is it such a complicated relationship? Zhao Han was shocked at the moment. Cough. When Renzheng reminded, Zhao Han stuck out his tongue and shrank behind the other two women. Analysis of his motives. According to his personal confession, he just wants to prove to his wife that he is also very capable, and the idol whom the other party worships, Yuyuganshu www.yuyuganshu.com seems to be high and perfect, and he will just like him. This small action made me irritable and aggrieved, but there was nothing I could do. Based on the analysis of the above information, we preliminarily judged that the difficulty of this emergency was above the proficient level and below the expert level. Team leader Hu continued to explain. That's right, first send all the relevant information to my mailbox, and we'll go to the scene to see the referee on the spot. Wen Renzheng said decisively. Okay, I will trouble you about this. Teacher Wu nodded and replied. Manager Wenren, then let me go with you. Team leader Hu asked. Wen Renzheng didn't speak, he held his chin and seemed to be lost in thought. Several people are watching him. The old saying is true. A good-looking man looks better when he is serious. If he is an ugly man, no one will look at him when he is serious. No one knows, a new stream of information is flashing in his mind. Mysterious incident, an angry referee. A professional referee who was deeply involved in family disputes gave up his long-term persistence and made an absurd judgment. Is this a distortion of human nature or a loss of morality? All the truth needs to be resolved. Entering the mystery can get the final answer. Mystery, 15. Mysterious composition, ... After Wen Renzheng read it, he shook his head and said, no need, your preliminary judgment should be fine. It is enough for me to bring 3 of them with this difficulty. The others stay at home and do other things. After all, we few people. That's good. Team leader Hu nodded. Mr. Wu patted him on the shoulder and said, it doesn't seem like the problem is really big. Since it's you who came out, then I'm relieved. Hearing this, Wu Shanshan behind Wen Renzheng's eyes moved, and 2 bright lights flashed. Wen Renzheng took the 3 of them and still took the stairs to the underground parking lot. Zhao Han followed quickly downstairs, and asked curiously, Mr. Wenren, every time you go up and down the stairs, you have to take the stairs. What's the point here? Humph, you don't know. Wu Shanshan gave her a sideways glance and interrupted, after all, it's a new transfer student, let me tell you. Then I'll trouble the seniors. Zhao Han quickly thanked him, holding his notebook, ready to record. She had a grateful smile on her face, but her intuition told her that the other party didn't seem to want her to get closer to Wen Renzheng, so she couldn't say a word. But the alien species she activated clearly reminded her to get close to this Wen Renzheng and stay away from the other person at the same time. Sure enough, after entering the mysterious realm, there is nothing easy to do, and now he seems to be disgusted by this Wu Shanshan. The elevator is a closed and narrow space, and the distance from strangers is often within 1 meter. This is a default danger zone. 18.3% of mysterious attacks happen in the elevator. If there is no emergency, it is more convenient to take the stairs. A good choice, if you persist for a long time, you may also improve a little extraordinary physique. Wu Shanshan seems to answer with some pride, these are all things Wenren mentioned in class. Oh, if you say that, then we can run to the scene, Zhao Han quickly made an inference. It's only 23.3 kilometers from here to Tianqiao Stadium, and we can run there in half an hour at most. Student Zhao is very smart, Su Yun's Huang nodded with a smile, but did not answer her question, but changed the subject. Many alien owners who specialize in combat never use any means of transportation, and some of them are extremists. And even reject any technological tools that can bring convenience, such as cooking without using any kitchen utensils. It's really exaggerated, it's unimaginable. How do you make this meal without using kitchen utensils? Zhao Han was surprised, and did not continue to ask the question just now, because she suddenly found that her proposal was stupid. If you really want to run, it's broad daylight now, how much damage to the images of beauties. A few people walked while talking, and soon came to the parking lot. At this time, Wen Renchen's driver had already driven the car to the exit of the stairs, waiting for the four of them. Wen Renzheng naturally wouldn't waste time when the three of them were talking, and he had already informed the driver. Well, my car might be a little crowded. Wen Renzheng glanced at it, then turned to the three of them and said, do you want to be wronged? Don't squeeze, Wenren, you can sit on my lap. Wu Shanshan blinked her slender eyes and said it as a matter of course. Wow, Zhao Han's face suddenly turned red, holding his face, is this the world of adults? Wen Renzheng was speechless, and opened the rear door for the three of them. Student Wu Shanshan, in public, be more reserved. For safety's sake, the three of you should squeeze out in the back. Understood, you mean, I don't need to be reserved in private situations, right? Wu Shanshan took the opportunity to speak. When I didn't say anything. Wen Renzheng said helplessly. At this time, his driver, Li Xuanjiu, had already stepped out of the car, opened the co-pilot's door for him, and then opened the rear door on the other side for the three girls. Wen Renzheng sat directly in the passenger seat, then closed his eyes, as if he was going to rest. Che, I don't want other women to ride with you in the same car. Wu Shanshan seemed a little disappointed, pouted, walked quickly towards a red sports car parked not far away, turned around and said to the two women, you guys too, come and take my car. However, Su Yun's Huang smiled and did not respond, but let Zhao Han sit in the back row first, and she got on the other side of the car. After the three got into the car, the driver checked the door and started the car steadily. After the car started, he drove out of the parking lot and turned into the avenue. Zhao Han took the opportunity to ask Su Yun's Huang, Senior Wu won't be angry because of this, right? No, she's not as stingy as you think. Su Yun's Huang reassured her, then took a deep breath as if she didn't intend to. The red sports car quickly followed. Zhao Han turned to look, only to see Wu Shanshan in the driver's seat. Her eyes seemed cold, looking at her car. It seems that something is wrong, but why does Su Yun's Huang make sure that the other party is not angry? Tianqiao Stadium security room. He Sankei squatted on the ground and looked at the door uneasily. At this time, his hands were being chained to the cold radiator by two silver-white handcuffs with strange patterns, and his legs were also chained by shackles with the same pattern. The room was empty, and he was alone. This kind of treatment made his heart flutter. No, it's just a few ambiguous sentences, so it's not going to kill me, right? In his not very clear legal concept, criminals who are shackled are often sentenced to heavy sentences or even the death penalty. He's just a football referee and desperately wants a lawyer to tell him that's not the case. He thought nervously, in fear, but also with 12 points of regret. Why was he so angry that he thought of that kind of childish way of revenge? Although it is more naive to say that the wife of an idol is crazy. But the big deal is divorce. Why do you act on impulse and do such a stupid thing that might lead to jail time? Really fascinated. When he felt sorry for himself, the door was finally opened from the outside. He looked up and saw that two men came first. One was the man he hated, and the other was the man he hated. It seems that it is because the other party's face has a kind of confidence and calmness that he does not have, and even looks down a bit. Behind them are three women, all wearing a pair of large wide-brimmed goggles, covering the small half of their faces. But in terms of physique, they are all pretty good, even better than his wife who went to the gym that day. I was wronged, he said immediately, trying to straighten up. A sound of crashing of iron chains suddenly sounded under his feet, and his hands cuffed to the radiator stopped his attempt. Shut up! He Sankei, do you know how much accident you almost caused? The one who reprimanded him was a middle-aged man among the two men, with a cold appearance, sharp eyes, and well-developed muscles. He Sankei quickly calmed down, although he didn't know why he hated these two people and didn't want to say anything to them. But after all, he is a person who often appears in the sight of tens of thousands of people. He still has considerable willpower and rationality. He understands that refusing to answer questions will only lead to worse consequences. Two gentlemen, I made some possible wrong decisions, but this is just a matter of my personal professional level. He began to repeatedly defend himself. The person he wanted to tell this to was another new young man. The middle-aged man glared at him and interrupted him directly, "Whether it's a mistake or not, it's up to us to decide. This person is an expert who specializes in handling special affairs. You have to cooperate well. Remember, lying will not do you any good. Will only magnify your originally limited responsibilities." Before He-san could respond, the middle-aged man respectfully said to the young man next to him, "Manager Wenren, I'll leave it to you for the next thing. I'll be standing guard outside the door. Please call me anytime if you have anything." "Okay, Inspector Liu, you've worked hard." Wenren's Hung bowed slightly in greeting. "Where are you? You are so polite." Inspector Liu also bowed his head and nodded to the three girls behind him. Then he turned and walked out of the security room, stood outside the door, and closed the door gently. "Mr. Wenren, hello." He-Sankei suppressed the disgust in his heart and greeted him somewhat flatteringly. Wenren's Hung didn't speak, just stared at him. And the three girls behind him took out a small notebook and began to record something. A string of new information appeared in Wenren's eyes again. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com He-Sankei. Mystery, 2/3. Mysterious composition, angry judge is related to someone. He-Sankei was a little creepy when the other party saw him, as if all the secrets on his body were seen by the other party. The inexplicable disgust became stronger and stronger. After a while, he heard the man's cold voice, "Have you come into contact with any special people, or have anything special happened to you during this month?" "Within 1 month." He-Sankei was startled. He immediately thought that it seemed that the other party wanted to help him. As long as he could think of some special experiences, he could push the responsibility out. Thinking of this, he felt relieved, and the inexplicable disgust dissipated most of it immediately. The things that happened in January, the people he met. He tried his best to recall in his mind. "Oh, I remembered. I went to a question and answer forum and asked a question. My wife doesn't want to reduce the quality of life, so what should I do if she doesn't let me take out a loan to buy a house? Then someone sent me a private message saying he could help me with this problem and gave me a link. I went to that link, came to a website, and followed the prompts to register." "What's the name of the website?" Wenren's Hung asked. "What is Dao really online?" He-Sankei suddenly slapped his forehead with his clasped hands. "Why can't I just remember?" Wenren's Hung didn't speak, and stared at the other party again. He-Sankei. Mystery, 1/3. Mysterious composition, the person involved in the mysterious event, the registrant of the mysterious website. "Don't worry, think slowly." Wenren's voice softened. The other party didn't lie, he was very interesting, and he liked it very much. In the past, there were always some idiots who wanted to justify themselves with all kinds of lies. Every time he met such a person, he would be very angry. He would not say anything stupid. You know, one of his mottos now is, "Never work overtime." Thinking of this, he looked at the watch in his hand. It was 12:45. Well, there was still more than an hour before leaving get off work, so he should be able to handle this person's situation. He-Sankei quickly calmed down. "You can check my mobile phone. I usually use my mobile phone to surf the internet and rarely use a computer." Wenren's Hung turned his head and glanced at the three women behind him. "I saw that Su Yun's Huang, who was still taking notes just now, had already put on a pair of white gloves while the two of them were asking questions. He was holding a pineapple smartphone with his slender fingers and looking down. Seeing Renzheng, she immediately replied, "I just checked the phone, and most of the data and applications have been emptied and uninstalled. I have contacted team leader Hu, and the people in the project center are trying to restore remotely, and they are also contacting the communications department will retrieve relevant information such as internet access and calls." "Yes," when Renzheng nodded in satisfaction and looked at He Sankei again, "can you think of anything else?" He Sankei's eyes lost focus, and he seemed to be trying his best to recall. Finally, he hesitated, but finally said, "Oh, I remembered one more thing. It happened last month. I chatted with a female netizen on the internet. Later, I read the local news and said that she was killed by her husband because of a family dispute." "Tell me carefully." When Renzheng frowned, He Sankei's tone was a little excited. "I remember that very clearly. The other party was a crazy fan who likes to bet the ball, and I accidentally exposed my referee status during the chat. She often asked me a lot of professional knowledge, how to judge two balls, the winning or losing of the side team, and later asked me to meet offline." "Then have you gone?" When Renzheng stared at him closely. I went." He Sankei hesitated and finally admitted, but he hurriedly covered the past with new information, "So when I was watching the local news, I immediately knew that the woman who died was her." "Men are really big pigs' hooves." Zhao Han, who was looking into his brain and observing He Sankei, hummed disdainfully when he heard the words. Just after she finished speaking, she felt a chill behind her back, shrank her neck subconsciously, and immediately lowered her head to make a diligent record. And at this moment, a "be careful" sounded like what Su Yun's Huang said, suddenly entering her ears. Zhao Han was surprised for a while, and subconsciously raised his head and looked forward. She was suddenly startled, only to see a hazy dark red dust mist pouring out of He Sankei's body, which seemed to be constantly changing. Vaguely, she seemed to see something, as if something was roaring. Was she angry? But the next moment, she watched Wen Renzheng suddenly flash in front of He Sankei, and she raised her hand and raised her eyebrows at him. She could clearly see that a deep purple light flashed on the tip of the opponent's index finger. Bang! She faintly heard a crackling sound, and then the dark red dust mist that appeared on He Sankei's body disappeared in an instant, accompanied by an inexplicable scream. "Don't talk nonsense!" Wu Shinshan's voice sounded in a low voice, different from before, with a bit of coldness. "I'm sorry." Zhao Han knew what taboo he might have committed, and immediately bowed his head to admit his mistake. "That was just now, what is that?" He Sankei felt his head light up, and when he looked at Wen Renzheng, the inexplicable disgust in his heart had disappeared. Wen Renzheng smiled at him, and the information that the other party appeared in his eyes had been updated again. He Sankei. Mystery, 0/3. Mysterious composition, people involved in mysterious events, registrants of mysterious websites, former aliens, anger, hatred, power carriers. You have investigated a character with a very low mystery degree, and found no new mysterious knowledge. The current mystery degree is restored to 1 point. It's a bit tasteless, but there should be a big meal waiting for you. Wen Renzheng flashed these thoughts, and then waved his hand back. Su Yun's Huang stepped forward and explained seriously, "Mr. He, don't panic. The abnormal sign that appeared on you just now is actually a high-dimensional energy body. It has been expelled now, and it will be fine in the future." That is to say, what kind of high-dimensional energy body did my previous actions? He Sankei has no interest in figuring out what a high-dimensional energy body is, although this concept seems to be mentioned by people when I go online. He just breathed a sigh of relief. "I know that I have always been a person who sticks to principles, how could I do such a shameless thing? The determination of specific responsibilities is not for us. We will make a detailed and truthful report on what happened to you, and submit it to the local inspection department, who will decide." Su Yun's Huang continued to explain. That means, I can't be released right away. He Sankei became impatient. Well, isn't this still wronging me? I'm a respectable person, so hurry up and release me. If you let others know that I've been detained here, how can I be a human in the future? Wen Renzheng didn't give any answer. Ordinary people are always like this. They feel that if the truth is clear, they can escape smoothly. How can it be so simple? As long as a mysterious incident is involved, there are a lot of necessary procedures to go through, such as a confidentiality agreement to be signed, a transcript to be made, and a certain period of isolation observation. This is only the most basic. According to the severity of the incident, the guilt in the ordinary sense must be determined. He turned around and opened the door, letting Inspector Liu, who had been guarding the door, come in. The situation on this person has been basically clarified. He has just been purified. I will submit a detailed report to you tomorrow morning. Wen Renzheng said. Thank you, it's really hard work, Manager Wenren. Inspector Liu nodded again and again, without doing any repeated identification, but immediately stretched out his hands to hold him tightly. It's nothing, it's not over yet, but that's all for tomorrow. After Wen Renzheng shook hands with him, he looked at his watch. It was 1:15, he finished writing the report in the car back, and just got off work. Understood, I have to trouble Manager Wenren to follow up. Inspector Liu asked again. Hey, Inspector Liu, listen to you, I can't leave, can I? He Sankei struggled desperately, trying to highlight his existence. What's it called? Do you think you really have no responsibility at all? Inspector Liu gave him a stern look, but he still walked over, took out a key, and opened the fetters for him. And the handcuffs. He Sankei lowered his voice again, arching his hands. However, Inspector Liu pulled out a pair of ordinary handcuffs from his waist and put them on first, and then he opened the original patterned handcuffs. What does this mean? He Sankei asked in surprise, but he was finally able to straighten up. This means that you have no special danger now. Inspector Liu said angrily. You can't do this, the expert at UU reading www.uuganshu.com said to this girl just now, what high-dimensional energy body does everything, and it has nothing to do with me. You should release me on the spot. At most, I will go to your company to make up a record. Of course, I will not want to compensate, after all, you are also doing business for the public. He Sankei looked aggrieved. Zhao Han couldn't help but want to refute him. When did the teacher and senior Su say this? However, she also felt that what the other party said was somewhat reasonable. Since the matter was caused by the high-dimensional energy body, the innocent should not be implicated. After all, ordinary people are implicated in this matter, and it is not a glorious thing. But she saw that the other people were indifferent. Thinking about the slap in the basket just now, she finally swallowed the words and held herself back. Your face is really big, don't talk nonsense, just be honest with me. Inspector Liu really didn't listen to He Sankei's explanation, he just held his shoulders and wanted to be as relaxed as a little chicken. At this moment, a middle-aged woman's voice came faintly outside the door. Let me in, why did you arrest my husband? This lady, there is an on-site investigation going on inside, please don't disrupt the order. A majestic voice sounded. Sankei, I watched the live broadcast again this time. It was I who blamed you. You are not a coward. But you misunderstood me. The middle-aged woman in the distance seemed to be full of anger and had a loud voice. I can't get in, but the voice can still come in clearly. I just don't like it when you go home and play with your phone on the sofa. I want to stimulate you to cheer up again, just like you used to go to work during the day and stay up late at night to test the referee's certificate. Let's work hard together. I will always wait for you to come out. When He Sankei heard this, he covered his face with his hands, as if something had entered his eyes. On the way back to the club, Wen Renzheng was still sitting in the passenger seat. He just dragged out a laptop fixed to the passenger seat. He closed his eyes and was typing a report quickly. In the back row, Zhao Han was turning his head and talking to Su Yun's Huang. His tone was quite excited. I didn't expect that there was such a touching truth behind it. The wife wanted her husband to be motivated, and deliberately stimulated her with words, but she was misunderstood by her husband, and under the interference of alien power, she did illegal things. But through hardships, the two people are still reconciled as before, and the past suspicions are released, and the wife is at home waiting for her husband to come back. She said while writing in the notebook. But at this moment, I suddenly heard a low laugh from the co-pilot. Teacher Wenren. Zhao Han stretched his voice, with a bit of coquettish anger. Is there any problem with my summary? Wen Renzheng didn't turn his head or open his eyes, he just continued to tap the report. Innocent is actually a very good quality, I hope I have friends like this around. I always think you're laughing at me, Zhao Han said angrily, and then said to Su Yun's Huang, Senior, do you think I'm wrong? Well, Su Yun's Huang twisted the ends of her silver hair and smiled slightly on her beautiful profile. In our line of work, it is actually very similar to ordinary investigation. It doesn't really matter what other people say, the key is it depends on what he did and what evidence he left behind. Zhao Han understands a little bit, but also a little bit doesn't understand. The other party seemed to be reminding himself that he had not found any evidence just now, but when Renzheng clearly told Lu Suncha that the situation on He Sankei had basically been clarified. Sigh, it really is a headache for a novice to go on the road. It's all my uncle's fault. I didn't take the time to train myself in advance. I just got into the car. When I go back, I will steal his investigation diary and take a look. Thinking of this, she looked around. Wu Shanshan was still driving behind, as if her face became colder. But she found another interesting thing. She whispered to Su Yun's Huang, Teacher can type the report with her eyes closed, it's amazing, I can also type blindly, but I can't correct the typos in time, and I'm confused when I type, I don't know what was written earlier. What? All the extraordinary memories of the teacher, but he was rated as high level or above, and the report was typed in his head. Look at his typing on the keyboard, what are the characteristics? Su Yun's Huang answered patiently. Zhao Han looked at it carefully, and after a while, he was slightly surprised, the teacher seems to only use the number keys. That's right, he uses the location input method, that is, the encoding method in which 4 digits correspond to a Chinese character or symbol, also called the location code. This input method is 1 character by 1 code, which is extremely difficult to memorize, and is not easy for ordinary people. Practical value, but it can easily enter special symbols and uncommon words, and the operation is very fast. Su Yun's Huang explained. It turns out that, as expected, when you step into the mysterious realm, there are places that are different from ordinary people, Zhao Han said excitedly. Oh, I remembered, the seniors also mastered the skill of extraordinary memory, no wonder information is readily available. Su Yun's Huang shook her head and said, I'm still a long way off. If I want to reach the level of a teacher, I need at least 3 years of hard training. The two were talking, and before they knew it, they had returned to the Milong building, stopped downstairs, and did not enter the parking lot. Wu Shanshan's red sports car stopped next to it. Zhao Han looked at his mobile phone and found that it was just 1:50, that is to say, after leaving the classroom at 12 o'clock, and it has not been used for 2 hours, an incident has been resolved. It is not so fast in anime, okay? Wait for me a while longer, the report will be finished soon, I'll take you to dinner later, and I'll go home by the way. Wen Renzheng said suddenly. Zhao Han was stunned when he heard the words, and couldn't help but say, it's not even 2 o'clock, do you want to leave work early, teacher? It's not in advance. Teacher Wenren's work efficiency is often more than twice that of others, so he only works for 4 hours on weekdays. Today is still overtime. Lunchtime is also used for work, it's really hard. Su Yun's Huang said very seriously. Zhao Han was speechless for a moment, and immediately began to break his fingers. When he met him at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a total of 5 hours, except for the 1 hour break for lunch, it was exactly 4 hours. Do you want to be so accurate? It turned out that the guy who got off work at 2 o'clock was him. Could it be that this is the style of a Daniel? Not long after, she watched Wen Renzheng straighten up and said, "Okay, the report has been written, and it will be sent to Inspector Liu early tomorrow morning. Today's work is done." Is this the end? Shouldn't I work overtime all night to solve all the problems clearly? It was clearly stated before that the matter was not over. If we leave it to tomorrow, wouldn't there be more victims? Also, why didn't the report be sent right away, but had to be postponed until tomorrow? Zhao Han instinctively felt a little uncomfortable, but didn't say anything, because there might be some special reasons she didn't know. This line was unknown to her everywhere. At this moment, she saw Wu Shanshan lying down outside the front window, and said to Wen Renzheng, "Wenren, the box has been booked, it's still the same place." Wen Renzheng nodded and said to the driver, "Brother Li, let's go to Xinyuan restaurant." "Yeah." The driver responded and started the car again, while Wu Shanshan took a few steps back and returned to his car. Zhao Han knew this place. It was a quite high-end restaurant nearby. The per capita consumption was between 500–1000. Her uncle took her to eat several times, but she couldn't afford it. After all, she is only a temporary host of a different species, and she is receiving temporary subsidies. She is still in the learning stage, and she has no ability to work at all. Just like He Sankei's alien power, when it suddenly occurred, she had no way to deal with it. She could only turn around and run away. She believed that the other party should not be able to catch up with her. Thinking about it this way, she didn't do anything, she just made soy sauce, but she did something wrong, and she deserved it. So she said decisively, "I won't go, I'll just go to the club cafeteria to eat something. One more person would cost hundreds more. Wen Renzheng may be rich, and so is his uncle, but it has nothing to do with her." Su Yun's Huang held her hand and smiled, "This is also part of the internship." During the conversation, the car turned into a secluded park, and behind a flower bed overgrown with bamboos, a green signboard of Xinyuan restaurant appeared. Wu Shanshan's sports car came in and parked in a nearby parking space together. After a few people got out of the car to meet, they were led by a smiling beautiful woman, through the dining hall surrounded by whispers and music, and into a box on the second floor by the window. "You can order whatever you want, ladies first, I don't have any taboos." Wen Renzheng handed over the menu generously. "Of course you won't be a taboo, anyway, you can even eat that kind of dark food every day." Wu Shanshan sat down beside him first, and took the menu first. "Look at what you said, I'm promoting my work style and uniting my colleagues. If no one eats it, isn't Xiaoqing too pitiful?" Wen Renzheng said righteously. Yes, you are the only good person in the club," Wu Shanshan said angrily, "I want this braised prawn and this Cantonese-style roast goose." Then there was Su Yun's Huang, who ordered dry pot crispy bamboo shoots and boiled cabbage heart. Zhao Han finally took over the menu. It seemed that, as before, there was still no one below 300. She had to order the cheapest one, fried celery. Wen Renzheng finally took the menu and said casually, "Girls have a small appetite." Then, he ordered 7 or 8 more dishes, 3 dishes of steamed dumplings, and a pot of seaweed and abalone soup. Zhao Han was a little surprised. He calculated in his heart that there were more than 15 dishes in total, and it looked like it would cost about 5 or 6,000. This meal was too expensive. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Of course, it's nothing compared to some local tyrants, who can eat tens of thousands of meals casually. But thinking about how Sankei had a big fight with his wife about buying a house loan, and finally made such a big commotion, she was particularly touched. In today's society, there are too many differences between people. She said subconsciously, let's eat a little too extravagantly, don't we? Humph, Wu Shanshan glared at her, what is this, do you know how many billionaires there are in the country? I don't know, maybe there are tens of thousands. Zhao Han thought hard and gave a number. Last year's statistics were 63,500 people. Su Yunzhuang smiled and smoothed her out. Then how many experts in the mysterious field do you know? Wu Shanshan ignored Su Yunzhuang and continued to ask. It seems that the ratio is very low. Zhao Han vaguely understood what the other party meant. Less than 1 in 100,000. There are only 1.4 billion people in China, and there are only a few thousand experts. Wu Shanshan said dismissively. Zhao Han still felt that something was not quite right, and it seemed that the analogy could not be made directly, but she did not want to continue arguing with the other party. Whether she won or lost, it was a loss for a new entrant like her. Okay, let's eat and eat. Of course I don't usually eat like this. Only when the incident is resolved will I reward everyone, because it can be reimbursed. Wen Renzheng brought drinks to everyone. It didn't take long for the dishes to be served one by one, and a few people began to eat quietly, occasionally talking in a low voice. Halfway through the meal, at about 2:30, Wen Renzheng received another call, and his expression became a little weird. After putting down the phone, he said to the three women, Sankei's wife just brought a 575,000 BMW. How could she do this? How dare she do this? How could she do this? Zhao Han stood up and almost touched the small bowl of soup in front of him. Su Yunzhuang, who was beside her, reacted very quickly, and quickly reached out to hold the dishes to prevent the soup from spilling. Why are you so excited? Wu Shanshan set the table, sit down, eat well, don't waste our time. Zhao Han sat down unhappily. On the road just now, she thought she had seen a scene of true love in the world, but after a few hours, her face was swollen. Shanshan, don't kill her. Teacher Wenren is right. Innocent is a very good quality. Su Yunzhuang seemed to have no surprises, so he comforted the two. Zhao Han doesn't understand, which shows that she is a good child. Humph, it's just that she hasn't been polluted yet. After a few years, I can still have today's reaction, and I will admire her. Wu Shanshan said disdainfully. Don't talk about it, if you have something to do, talk about it after dinner, don't waste this good dish. Wen Renzheng continued to eat another steamed dumpling. Zhao Han looked at a table of delicious food, but he couldn't eat it. She was very aggrieved. She didn't know why Wu Shanshan was always targeting her today. It was obvious that everyone had just started close contact. She had just transferred to the class to study. She had not been here for a few days, and many students did not recognize it all. Could it be that the other party sees that he intends to approach Wen Renzheng, but the other party's possessiveness is a bit excessive? And it seems that the relationship between Su Yunzhuang and Wen Renzheng seems to be very good, and there is that woman named Xiaoqing, remember what my uncle said, she seems to be from the R&D center, why not target them? Are you still bullying yourself as a newcomer? Thinking of this, she said stubbornly, Senior Wu, maybe I'm naive, but I really can't understand why the husband is still in custody, and the wife can buy a luxury car with peace of mind. Why did she say it before? Those touching words? I doubt that his wife was also affected by the alien power, and we should go back and deal with this matter immediately. What are you yelling? Wu Shanshan looked at her coldly, what should I do, and I want you to teach me? Wenren never does anything wrong. If you mortals don't understand what he's doing, just shut up. Wait for the result. No, don't give me such a big tree, Wen Renzheng waved his hand, quickly rejected the poisonous milk, put down his chopsticks, and explained to Zhao Han, "Your inference is human, but the phone said that his wife it has been controlled by Inspector Lu, and careful inspection has been carried out, and no influence of alien power has been found." What? Zhao Han's head shook when she heard this. The news made her unbelievable. She would rather believe that it was the power of a different species that twisted the heart of He Sankei's wife and made the other party suddenly buy a luxury car, rather than believing that this was the other party's heartfelt choice. Wu Shanshan didn't look at her again, she just picked up a pair of plastic gloves, put them on her hands, tore open the roast goose, and ripped off another goose leg, then stuffed it into Wen Renzhen's mouth. "Why do you explain so much to her? Let her check it out by herself," she said with some dissatisfaction. "A little girl, she has to be beaten by society before she can grow up." "Okay, Shan Shan, we also came here at this stage." Su Yun's Huang comforted the two parties, then grabbed Zhao Han's hand. "Actually, this is not incomprehensible. Do you remember the information that team leader who gave us before?" Zhao Han immediately took out the notebook from his jacket pocket and looked at the shorthand he made earlier. He Sankei can only put down 25% of the down payment, and the rest needs a loan. His wife dislikes that this will reduce her quality of life, so she objected to it, and ridiculed him for being incompetent and cowardly. She read her shorthand carefully. "That's right, do you remember her wife's last shout before we left?" Su Yun's Huang asked gently. "Well, she finally said that the reason why she mocked her husband like that was to stimulate him to fight again, and she said that she would work hard with him and wait for him to come out." Zhao Han said in a low voice. "These are clearly memorized in the notebook. Think about it, if a wife wants to work hard with her husband from the bottom of her heart, will she not want to reduce her quality of life, but just use mean words to stimulate her husband?" Su Yun's Huang said slowly. Zhao Han finally got bored in her mind, but she would rather not figure it out by herself. But she still said it. "I understand." Her last words were just to trick her husband into giving her the down payment of the house with confidence. From the beginning to the end, she never thought about enduring hardships and struggles with her husband, she just wanted to pass the burden of life on to others, and then sit back and enjoy it. The average price of a house in Dongshuacheng this year is more than 20,000 yuan. For a house of 100 square meters, a down payment of 25% is exactly more than 500,000 yuan. Su Yun's Huang continued to add a figure. Zhao Han lowered his head and said nothing. The others continued to eat. But she suddenly stood up. "I still want to ask her right away what she thinks." "You?" Wu Shanshan glared at her, while Wen Renzheng nodded slightly to Su Yun's Huang. "Okay, I really can't help you." Su Yun's Huang stretched out his hand and dragged Zhao Han back to the seat. The seemingly slender arm had a power that Zhao Han could not resist. She put down her chopsticks, took out her mobile phone, put it on the tablecloth, opened an app, and showed it to Zhao Han. Zhao Han looked at it subconsciously. It was a blue-black background software with many functions. It was called Secret Key, which was somewhat similar to the commonly used Q letter. Su Yun's Huang opened one of the windows and quickly typed on it. "Lu Suncha, we want to see the live broadcast of the next questioning about He Sankei's wife, can we?" "Miss Su, of course there is no problem, but just leave these chores to us, and we will send you the results as soon as possible." A person whose head was a little raccoon and whose nickname was Lu Xiang replied. "Oh, we have a new student who wants to observe your questioning skills and learn it. Miss Su is really polite. It's just some ordinary stuff." "Okay, I'll start the live broadcast now, and I'll hear about her in a while." It didn't take long for Zhao Han to see that the software screen changed, a black screen appeared, and then there was a simple white room. Inside was Inspector Lu and a female inspector, and they both sat behind a table at the same time. Not far from the table, sits a woman in her 30s, with a certain beauty, light makeup and delicate dress, with a decent figure. Zhao Han had heard the angry shouting from the other party before, and thought that the other party was a stout aunt who was over 40, but it turned out not to be the case at all. This woman doesn't have any restrictions, so it doesn't seem to be a big problem. At the beginning, the inquiries were all step by step, such as name, age, social relationship, etc., and soon came to the questions that Zhao Han was concerned about. Lu Suncha said with a straight face, "Wang Qingyu, when you met your husband He Sankei before, you said you would hire the best lawyer for him. Why did you turn around and take the bank card and password he gave you, and can't wait to go to the XX store? Brush to BMW 5 Series. Mr. Inspector, I didn't violate any rules by doing this, right?" Wang Qingyu asked rhetorically, bringing her legs together. "No, this is the joint property of your husband and wife, and any disputes arising from it will be resolved through negotiation between the two of you. But the problem just now is related to an incident that we are investigating. Please fulfill your obligations and cooperate with us on your own initiative," Inspector Lu said lightly. Hearing this, Wang Qingyu seemed to be quite relieved. She immediately leaned back on the chair, and said very readily, that He Sankei is not a good thing at all. He went offline to meet the female netizens who asked him, and thought I didn't know. Later, the on the news was killed by her husband. He was like his wife who died. He was in a trance for several days. Can I count on him for the rest of my life? It just happened that he had this incident. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. I took the money back and bought a good car, just to make up for my youth in the past few years. When he is sentenced, I will sue for divorce, and this will be the case nasty. I thought I could live a good life after following him, but I turned 33. He couldn't even afford a house in full, so he was really a useless man. Many of the men who chased me back then are now bosses." When Wang Qingyu said this, there was a look of hatred and some joy on her face. "By the way, Inspector, how many years will he be sentenced in this situation? It's better to get more sentences to avoid pestering me," she asked again in a low voice. Inspector Lu shook his head and said, "You don't need to inquire about this. Come here to sign, and you can leave after signing. But remember not to leave the city and wait for a possible subpoena. We will notify you when you are free to leave." Saying that, he pushed forward a few pieces of A4 paper on the table. "Thank you for the inspection." Wang Qingyu hurriedly got up and stepped forward to start signing. The live broadcast ended afterwards. After Zhao Han watched it, he sat blankly behind the dining table. The adult world is so dark. I want to go back to the second dimension, she muttered to herself, only to feel that in a short period of time, her mood was like riding a roller coaster, going up and down for a while. It turns out that in the end, no one is completely innocent. This is the truth. One's own alien species can see through many things, but cannot see through people's hearts. Su Yun's Huang reached out and stroked her head, comforting, "Don't be afraid, just keep your eyes open, look at the world rationally, believe in those things that you can truly believe, and you will be able to walk very well." Hearing this, Zhao Han instinctively leaned his head in the other's arms, seeking comfort, unaware that he and the other party had only seen each other for one day. An episode in the meal ended quickly, and everyone began to eat calmly again. When it was close to 3 o'clock, Wen Renzheng drank a glass of water and stretched his body slightly. "That's right, Ah Zhen's cooking skills have improved again. This little devil has no idea how many secrets he has stolen from us." He sighed casually. Zhao Han asked curiously, "Is Ah Zhen the chef here?" "Well, a guy from Dongdao, who seems very decent, is actually a fat man who is addicted to the second dimension," Wen Renzheng replied. The people of Dongdao have always been humble and respectful. They have been loyal servants of our Shenzhou Eastern Front since ancient times. How could the teacher call him a little devil? This name seems to be a bit contemptuous." Zhao Han blinked and seemed a little puzzled. "That's the teacher's personal hobby," Su Yun's Huang smiled. As long as they're not from Shenzhou, the teacher sometimes calls them that. It's not my prejudice, Wen Renzheng reminded, I'll give you a little more. The humility and loyalty of those guys is because we have always had this. As he said that, he casually pinched the handle of a ceramic cup, and with a little force, the hard ceramic handle suddenly turned into a powder-like thing, and sprinkled it on the white tablecloth. The expressions of the other two women did not change, but Zhao Han's eyes widened and he was shocked, staring at the powder, thinking to himself, at this level, I am afraid that my uncle needs to be serious to do it. Only by maintaining this, will there be long-term friendship between us and them. After a small performance, Wen Renzheng stood up and went to check out. For him, one of the best places in this world compared to his previous life is that because of the mixing of the mysterious realm, the lower limit of Shenzhou has always been very high. Even when it is weakest, it can retreat to the position of the hegemon of East Asia and keep up with the progress of the times. Because the top powerhouses in the mysterious field, there are no stupid people, all of them are open-minded and keep looking at the whole world, and they will never be closed and depraved like the feudal rulers. They have to face the competition of the whole world all the time, and being closed and depraved means that they will be mercilessly killed by their opponents and robbed of alien species. And because of his past life memories, he is often more alert than the locals. After checking out, he said to the three women, after you return to the club, handle this incident as usual, go to the project department to obtain information, and communicate with the inspection department. Still pay attention to that one, don't contact me privately without my company. Any suspicious person. Understood, teacher. Su Yun's Huang replied first. Zhao Han nodded, and her mood had recovered. After all, she didn't see such a tragic scene. If she fell down just because of a story of ups and downs, it would be impossible to be selected by aliens. Okay, then I'll go home. Shan, you will send them both back to the club later. Wen Renzheng said and left. Wu Shan responded, but got up immediately and followed quickly. Zhao Han wanted to keep up, but was stopped by Su Yun's Huang. The two sat down at the dining table again. Although Zhao Han didn't quite understand it, he just took advantage of this alone time to ask this senior who seemed to take care of him a few questions of concern. Sister Wu seems to have a good relationship with manager Wenren. She asked tentatively. Well, Shan is a senior after this summer vacation. In fact, she is 1 year older than the teacher. Not only does she take classes in the club, but she also has an internship in the project center for a year. After graduation next year, she is likely to stay here and work. Su Yun's Huang smiled. Oh. Zhao Han pretended to sort out his short black hair, and quickly made up a classic workplace scene in his mind in order to quickly integrate into the environment and superior. The intern used his beauty to cling to the young and promising boss. This is no wonder, Wu Shan obviously regards herself as a newcomer as her biggest enemy. Sister Yun's Huang is the eldest young lady of the Five Colors group. She studied at Almori University, one of the top universities. Now she is only taking remedial classes at the club. That Xiaoqing, who has never been masked, is a regular employee of the club's research and development center, so Wu Shan should not be able to offend her. What I thought before was right, because of the alien's prompt, I deliberately approached Wen Renzheng, and of course I would be fiercely targeted. Boys are all guys who like the new and hate the old, just like the guys in the class. They are simple on the surface, but in fact they don't know how many people they have secretly love. Thinking of this, Zhao Han felt that she fully understood, and she made a gossip. Sister Wu's sports car, I heard the school boys talk about a similar brand, it's quite expensive, right? 624,000, she bought it with her internship salary and project commission. Su Yun's Huang smiled. Her accomplishments in the mysterious field are already close to the proficiency level evaluation, and she will be officially promoted after the qualification assessment in about half a month. Become a xenogenic host with a proficiency level evaluation. When Zhao Han heard this, the hand that was arranging her hair stopped, her face was slightly startled, and she was a little envious. Sure enough, as my uncle said, this industry is a powerful water pump, which continuously extracts the wealth created by ordinary industries. Just an intern can afford to buy a sports car worth hundreds of thousands, while a white-collar worker who is a dozen years older than her, works hard, but can only get enough down payment for the house. Su Yun's Huang seemed to see it, held her hand and said, "You don't have to envy her, as long as you hold on, you will reach her level in a few years." "Thank you, Sister Yun's Huang," Zhao Han laughed heartily. "However, our new xenogenic hosts are only temporary owners. Only by becoming an expert in a certain branch can they be permanent hosts." Thinking of this, it does make people nervous. I actually understand Wu Sueja very well, she is actually working hard. "Oh, it's alright, you will definitely be able to cross this threshold." Su Yun's Huang stared into her eyes and gently encouraged, "After all, you have such vigor." "Haha, is that so?" Zhao Han grinned, "Actually, everyone in my family says I have a big heart." "Yes, you can maintain your mood if you have an optimistic attitude. By the way, are you still a high school student?" Su Yun's Huang asked, her pure eyes full of concern. "Yeah, senior sister is really accurate. After this summer vacation, I will be the third year of high school. It was my uncle who asked me to join the class, just to learn the extraordinary memory of teacher Wenren. If I learn it, I don't have to worry about the college entrance examination." "Ha, maybe I'm dreaming, I didn't expect it to be so difficult, but it's impossible to learn it in more than a month of summer vacation." Zhao Han laughed at himself. "It's not impossible, if you can fully tap the potential of your alien species and conduct targeted training," Su Yun's Huang said seriously. Then, just as Zhao Han was about to ask how to do targeted training, he suddenly got stuck. Because she remembered her uncle's admonition, "At any time, don't tell others about your alien species, not even at all. Don't forget, there is a long list of spare tires behind you, waiting for your superior at any time. The only people who have this information are the Supreme Inspectorate and you." She quickly reacted, "Then if I want to be admitted to Sister Yun Shuang's current school, how should I study in a targeted manner in the third year of high school? Even if you are an alien owner, your education is very important, because if you fail in the qualification assessment, you can still rely on your education and the identity of the alien owner to do auxiliary work in the edge of the mysterious field, and you can still get access to ordinary industries. Unattainable treatment. Oh, in fact, you can be a special student. As long as you can show your talent for cultivation of alien species, you will have the opportunity to be directly recommended for admission," Su Yun's Huang said patiently. "Of course you'd better be admitted by ordinary methods. In that case, it's better for your own safety. After all, hiding yourself is a lesson that we temporary owners must learn. Because the main protection objects of the Inspectorate Department are those experts and geniuses who focus on them." "Thank you, Sister Yun's Huang, for the reminder." Zhao Han thanked him very sincerely. Even though he knew this earlier, he still felt a warm current in his heart. It seems that even in this unknown world, he can still make true friends. The two were talking in the box. At about 3:40, Wu Shanshan returned to the box, and the two stopped talking. Zhao Han looked carefully, and found that the other party had the same short black hair as himself, but it looked a little messy, his face was a little flushed, and his breathing was a little short. Could it be the aftermath of the legend? Thinking of this, her face immediately flushed, but she did not despise Wu Shanshan, because she now understands the situation of the other party and understands the behavior of the other party. Not everyone has the resources of Sister Yun's Huang, and she does not rely on it. Alien tips, want to take some shortcuts? Although he would never follow the other party's direct approach, objectively speaking, it was still the difference between 50 steps and 100 steps. Let's go. Wu Shanshan glanced at the two of them and said indifferently, as if she didn't care what they saw. That's troublesome, senior. Zhao Han got up and thanked him earnestly. Humph. Wu Shanshan suddenly approached, squinting her pair of narrow and agile bright eyes, bent down and said in her ear, "Stay away from him, that's not something you can touch." Zhao Han's face froze for a moment, and she felt cold all over her body. At this moment, she seemed to see a thick, pitch-black dust mist suddenly emanating from Wu Shanshan's body, which almost made her feel that disaster was imminent. Is such a terrifying character only close to the proficiency level? Wen Renzheng, who was rated as an expert long ago, how strong is he really? The previous scene where he crushed the ceramic handle turned out to be just the tip of the iceberg. Wu Shanshan has this kind of power, needless to say, it is absolutely inseparable from him. Okay, don't scare our cute and innocent schoolgirl. Su Yun's Huang stood up at this time and patted Wu Shanshan on the shoulder. Only then did Zhao Han feel his chest loosen, and the feeling of fear disappeared completely. Che, I thought there was a lot of potential, that's all, Wu Shanshan said disdainfully, then straightened up, turned around and walked towards the entrance of the box, and said, "Let's go." Zhao Han didn't reply, just gritted his teeth secretly. Wait, you're a guy who only depends on your body, He Dong for 30 years, Hexi for 30 years. Just from the first incident in front of you, start seriously. The oppression of the other party made her more fighting spirit. She followed decisively without showing weakness. Behind her, Su Yun's Huang picked up a silk handkerchief embroidered with a portrait pattern, rolled up the powder in front of Wen Renzheng's seat, picked up the cup, and put it into the satchel. Wen Renzheng was sitting in his car, leaning against the back row with his eyes closed. His face was calm and his hair was slightly damp, as if he had just taken a shower. The driver drove the car steadily, had already got on the viaduct extending in all directions, and galloped all the way to the south on the relatively empty road. It's just 4 o'clock now, and the summer sun is still high above the western sky. At this time, there are few vehicles, and at 5 or 6 o'clock, there will be congestion. Wen Renzheng was in his mind, recalling what happened that day. The effect of extraordinary memory enhancement is to be able to play back what happened scene by scene with unparalleled clarity like an animation. An ordinary people's memory basically only has a rough impression, and it is impossible to recall many details. Zhao Han, Mystery, 4/9. Mysterious composition, extraordinary power, beginning of extraordinary physique, mysterious cognition. It seems that the other party has an unknown alien species that he has never been in contact with. Otherwise, after close contact today, the mysterious species can be identified by the alien aura. After the confirmation, it should be able to raise the upper limit of mystery. Thinking of this, he made a comparison with the other two. Su Yun's Huang, Mystery Degree, 3/15. Mysterious composition, Seeds of Joy, Extraordinary Power, Beginning of Extraordinary Constitution, Beginning of Extraordinary Memory, Mysterious Cognition. Wu Shanshan, Mystery, 5/21. Mysterious Composition, Seed of Fear, Extraordinary Power, Beginning of Extraordinary Physique, Beginning of Mysterious Writing, Mysterious Cognition. Still the same, even if the relationship is quite deep, it still cannot be fully unlocked. It seems that there is something deeply hidden in both of them. But this is also normal. Even between husband and wife, it is difficult to trust each other, so sincere love will be praised. Because of its scarcity, who would praise something that can be done easily? He skipped these pictures and turned to another scene. Lu Jian, Mystery Degree, 15/40. Mysterious Composition, Seed of Wrath, Supernatural Power, Mysterious Cognition. This transfer student, who came at the same time as Zhao Han, is 21 years old according to the file. He is just a college student. The upper limit of mystery is very high. It seems that there is either a background or a story. Generally, the owner of a different species is the most likely to appear emotional species, including joy, anger, worry, fear, love, hatred, and desire. But this does not mean that they are not powerful. In fact, these emotional seeds are the easiest to rise to the level. High-level aliens often come from emotional seeds. On the contrary, those rare aliens seem to be very powerful, but it is difficult to achieve the conditions for promotion. "Sir, I'm home." The driver had already stopped the car, opened the rear door, and reminded Wen Renzheng to open his eyes. He nodded and got out of the car. In front of him is a two-story beige villa with a single door and a single courtyard. The car is parked in a small parking lot in the courtyard, and a blue car is parked next to it. There is a flat path paved with broken stones at the foot, leading to the main body of the villa. There is a swimming pool on the left side of the trail, and a glass greenhouse on the right side. It is now open in summer and grows some vegetables and fruits. "Brother Li, that's all for today, take a good rest." Wen Renzheng was walking on the road and turned his head. "Okay, sir." The driver followed behind him. The driver lives with him, and there is a separate house behind the villa. The two walked into the villa, and the driver stepped forward to help Wen Renzheng open the door. Just as he opened the wooden red door, he heard a clear and five-point drunken chant. "When you sing about wine, life is so complicated. For example, in the morning dew, in the past, there are many hardships. One should be generous and unforgettable. How can we relieve our worries? Only Du Kong. Master is drunk again." After the driver finished speaking, he suddenly took a few steps back. Wen Renzheng walked into the door and took a look, frowning slightly. "I saw a handsome man who was 7 points similar to him and looked like only 35 or 16. He was half-slumped on the large L-shaped sofa in the entrance hall, his eyes were blurry, and on the silver coffee table next to him, there were several tables lying on the side. Can of snowflake beer. It's nothing, the key is that on the man, there is a slender, good-looking young woman lying on her back, her clothes are half exposed, and she is kissing the man's neck." The man seemed to be unaware, but with a slightly painful expression on his face, half closed his eyes, he recited Dan Ge Seeing on his own. Cough. Wen Renzheng had to interrupt the live broadcast. The woman hurriedly got up, started to organize her clothes, and explained, "I'm sorry, A Sheng, I thought you wouldn't be back today." The man finally opened his eyes, straightened up crookedly, and greeted Wen Renzheng, "Oh, you're finally back, give me." Wen Renzheng walked over with an expressionless face, went up and slapped at the man's face, bowed left and right, and slapped him twice. The woman was stunned, she hurriedly shrank her head, and hid aside. "Is this to kill chickens and monkeys?" Not only was the man not angry, but a happy expression appeared on his face, so comfortable, so reassuring, "Dad." Then he fell down on the sofa and snored. "Sorry, Sister Jing, I surprised you. It may be the first time you meet. This is a unique way of expressing intimacy in my family." Wen Renzheng explained to the woman solemnly, then put the man on his shoulder with one hand, and walked towards a passage on the right side of the hall. At this time, two more streams of information flashed in his eyes. Wen Rend, Mystery Degree, 1/2. Mysterious Composition, Extraordinary Power, Original Mystical Resistance. Feng Jing Jing, Mystery, 0/1. Although A Sheng's family style is a bit unique, I can understand it. Feng Jingjing's white and tender face flashed strangely, but she still nodded forcefully. "When my son comes home, he comes up and slaps the drunk father twice. If the father doesn't get angry, he still wants to call his son's father? The father brought home a woman other than his mother, and being beaten by his son is not too difficult to understand, but the scene is too difficult to understand. Is this the family in the mysterious world?" It doesn't feel the same as what Frost said. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com, then I'll go back first. The more Feng Jingjing thought about it, the more wrong it became. After saying a word, she wanted to leave. Brother Li, send Sister Jing off. Wen Renzheng opened the door of a bedroom and turned around to instruct. Understood, sir. The driver replied. Feng Jingjing followed the driver Li Xuanjiu out of the villa lobby. She finally couldn't help but wonder, and said, Brother Li, you must have been with Ah Sheng for some years, right? Well, 3 years ago, I followed Master Wenren. The driver said with a straight face. Then their family really has this custom? Feng Jingjing asked. Sooner or later you'll have to get acquainted. If you want to enter this house, the young master is kind and wants you to get used to it in advance. The driver paused and said. If I can't adapt, what will happen? Feng Jingjing asked curiously. Madam just left because she couldn't adapt to this situation. She walked peacefully at that time. The driver gave her an inexplicable smile. Feng Jingjing shivered and walked quickly to her blue car. You seem to have had some drinks, so let me take you back. The driver said. No, I'll just go out and get a cab. Feng Jingjing waved her hands again and quickened her pace. I was actually joking with you just now. The driver caught up with her and explained. When Feng Jingjing heard this, she breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest and said, I knew that today was just an accidental situation. Maybe Dej and I have gone too far. No, I mean, when Madam left, it was very painful. The driver smiled again. Feng Jingjing ran out of the gate of the villa. Li Xuanjiu looked coldly at the back of the other party leaving in a hurry, and the lady will definitely come back.